The Enigma Empire, a sprawling and feared civilization known for crushing any species in its path, had conquered worlds beyond counting. They were masters of advanced weaponry, and their pride lay in their unchallenged victories. So when they encountered humanity, a species limited to one small blue planet, just beginning to venture beyond its own moon, the Enigma saw only an easy prize. Humanity was deemed weak, naive, and ripe for conquest. But even in their arrogance, the Enigma had preserved a curious record about humans, an ancient, half-forgotten tale from millennia ago. It spoke of humans as resilient, unpredictable, and driven by a peculiar fire that few species possessed. The Enigma's council historians, however, laughed at the suggestion that these legends held any truth. After all, this species was barely managing interplanetary travel and split across nations in constant conflict. No, humans were fragile, a planet of ants waiting to be stepped on. Their leaders would crush Earth and add it to the Empire in a single, swift campaign. The Enigma's fleet descended, their warships casting dark shadows over Earth's cities. They had sent messages to Earth's leaders: surrender and serve, or face annihilation. In past conquests, this show of force was enough to make any civilization buckle. But Earth did not submit. Instead, to the Enigma's surprise, humanity's response was defiant. They didn't scatter in fear or beg for mercy. They launched their own attack, every corner of Earth responding in unity. Fighter jets streaked across the sky, and missiles launched at Enigma ships with a fierce, if primitive, defiance. The Enigma watched in amusement at first. These attacks were as insignificant as pebbles against a mountain. But the Enigma's amusement turned to something more uneasy. Humanity fought with a tenacity the Enigma had rarely encountered. Earth's militaries took heavy losses, but humanity refused to yield. What the Enigma hadn't realized was that humanity, even under threat, was learning. Scientists, engineers, and analysts across Earth began feverishly studying every weakness they could spot in the Enigma's machinery. Early failures turned into rapid adaptation. Within days, human engineers were hacking into the Enigma's communication systems, learning to scramble their signals, and even managing to down a few of their ships through sheer ingenuity. Each day, humanity fought with growing coordination, adapting faster than the Enigma could predict. Behind the front lines, Earth's top minds were working tirelessly. Brilliant minds from nations that had once been adversaries were now united, studying the Enigma's weaponry, finding ways to turn the enemy's own technology against them. They built crude but effective jammers, broke down the Enigma's security codes, and repurposed their weapons. The more the Enigma pushed, the more humanity adapted. Earth had become a battlefield the Enigma did not understand, a planet of relentless survivors, fighting with grit and intelligence. In the depths of Earth's cities, forests, mountains, and deserts, humanity began to employ guerrilla tactics, stealth attacks, ambushes, and sabotage that left the Enigma soldiers bewildered. Enigma troops, who were used to formal battles, found themselves facing a new kind of war. Humans were nowhere and everywhere, slipping out of sight only to strike hard when least expected. The very terrain of Earth became an ally, with humans using it to shield themselves and trap the Enigma soldiers. Battles were now fought in the shadows, with humans exploiting every resource, every hidden path, every weakness. Even more alarming for the Enigma was the unity of Earth's people. The invasions that had once divided Earth's nations now brought them together. Rivalries vanished as countries pooled their resources and skills, sharing intelligence and working side by side. It was a unity that the Enigma couldn't fathom. Civilizations they had conquered had been divided and easily broken, but humanity only grew stronger as one. Word spread among the Enigma forces about the resilience of humans, of soldiers and civilians alike fighting back with unyielding spirit. The Enigma's commanders began to see Earth not as a mere conquest but as a costly mistake. The fragile humans were turning into an unstoppable force, driven by something the Enigma had never understood, an indomitable will to survive and protect their home. The Enigma's once invincible fleet, so used to quick and overwhelming victory, was being slowly worn down. Yet the Empire's leaders refused to acknowledge their failure, demanding more resources, more troops, and harsher tactics. But with every push, every desperate attempt to subdue Earth, humanity only grew fiercer. The Enigma's advanced technology was proving no match for humanity's adaptability and sheer refusal to accept defeat. What had begun as a swift invasion was now a war, and the Enigma were on the defensive. Earth's people were relentless, and the Enigma could no longer see them as mere primitives. This was a species willing to sacrifice everything to protect what was theirs. The warning had been there all along, hidden in their ancient histories, but the Enigma had ignored it. Now they were learning, too late, that humans were not a species that could be conquered easily. And as their forces continued to fall, the Enigma began to see their empire, once mighty and feared, starting to crumble before an enemy they had grossly underestimated. The Enigma Empire's swift invasion had given them a chilling realization: humanity was far from the fragile species they had once judged them to be. Every day, Enigma soldiers and commanders encountered a force that seemed to learn from every mistake, adapting with a speed and ingenuity that shook the Empire's confidence. This wasn't a battle they could control with their usual tactics. Humanity was proving too unpredictable. With each strike, Earth's defenders grew more skilled, and the Enigma's once unbreakable grip on Earth began to loosen. Behind the scenes, Earth scientists and engineers were unlocking secrets of Enigma technology at an alarming pace. Human researchers worked around the clock, poring over captured weapons and devices, dissecting every piece of alien tech they could get their hands on. They repurposed shields, hacked targeting systems, and developed electronic warfare tactics that disrupted Enigma communication lines. Makeshift labs and hidden bunkers buzzed with new ideas, as Earth's best minds continued to find clever ways to throw their alien invaders off balance. With these advancements, humanity's forces went on the offensive, striking in coordinated attacks that exploited every weakness they could find. Raids on Enigma bases became frequent, with humans disabling machinery, ambushing soldiers, and dismantling their supply lines. Stealth became their primary weapon, with small, nimble units infiltrating Enigma camps under cover of night. The Enigma were caught off guard, never expecting that the humans would be bold enough, or skilled enough, to take the fight directly to them. Even more impressive was humanity's mastery of guerrilla tactics. The Enigma soldiers, trained for straightforward combat and large-scale battles, were baffled by Earth's hit-and-run style. It wasn't just about firepower, it was about the art of unpredictability. The humans would strike suddenly and vanish just as quickly, using Earth's diverse terrain to their advantage. The Enigma troops found themselves stranded, isolated, and constantly on edge, waiting for the next attack from an enemy that seemed to know every hidden path, every strategic overlook. Humanity's resilience came not just from their technology but from an innate will to defend their planet. Civilians joined the fight, using their knowledge of their homeland to evade Enigma forces. Resistance cells sprang up everywhere, communicating through coded messages and underground networks. Farmers in rural areas protected fields that hid weapon caches, while city dwellers sabotaged Enigma patrols. Every street, every forest, every mountain became a potential battleground, and humanity was turning the entire planet into a fortress. The Enigma, once so confident, now faced a staggering truth: they had become the hunted. The very land they sought to conquer was now an enemy, with humans appearing and disappearing like shadows. For the first time, their soldiers tasted fear, and morale began to drop. They had expected a submissive populace, but instead, they faced a force that was defying all odds, turning every resource they could muster against the Empire. The Enigma soldiers, who had been raised to believe in the Empire's invincibility, started to question if their leaders had sent them into an unwinnable war. As the humans continued to gain ground, a shift began within the Enigma ranks. Some high-ranking officials quietly questioned the wisdom of invading this strange, tenacious species. Reports from the front lines painted a picture that many back on Enigma worlds could hardly believe, a picture of humans not only surviving but thriving under the pressure of war. The Enigma leadership, however, refused to back down. With their pride on the line, they continued to demand victory, ordering their forces to press on at any cost. But the humans had adapted to every tactic, countering each new strategy with even more daring moves. Then, in a final act of desperation, the Enigma escalated their assault, focusing on cities where humanity's resistance was strongest. They believed that a brutal, direct attack on humanity's heart would force surrender. Instead, they encountered humanity's unbreakable spirit. The Enigma's fear tactics were met with an iron will, as entire cities banded together to defend themselves, fortifying streets, blocking passages, and striking back with an intensity that left the Enigma reeling. Where the Empire expected surrender, they found only resolve. The relentless, coordinated attacks from Earth's defenders took their toll. Enigma forces were spread thin, unable to sustain their offensive. Supplies dwindled, equipment broke down, and reinforcements from the Enigma homeworld arrived too late. For each city they assaulted, another resistance cell rose somewhere else, keeping the Empire off balance. Humanity was winning, not through superior firepower, but through a fierce determination that the Enigma couldn't understand, a determination to protect, to survive, to outlast. Each day, the Enigma forces grew weaker, their resources stretched to breaking. Meanwhile, Earth's unity only strengthened. Nations that had once stood apart now worked as one, pooling their knowledge, weaponry, and strategies. The Enigma Empire, which had expected an easy victory, was instead faced with a relentless force that refused to submit. They had seen Earth as a planet of weak, primitive creatures, but now, under the weight of a battle they had never anticipated, the Enigma were beginning to break. The cost of underestimating humanity was becoming undeniable, and the Enigma began to understand the bitter truth: they had ignited a war they couldn't win. The tide of the war was shifting, and humanity was no longer simply defending its home. With each battle, each ambush, and each act of defiance, humans pushed further into territory the Enigma once controlled with ease. What had begun as a desperate struggle for survival was turning into a full-blown offensive. Earth's forces, once dwarfed by Enigma's might, had not only leveled the playing field but had gained the upper hand. The Enigma Empire, with all its technological superiority, was now the one scrambling to keep up. Humanity's newfound unity was its greatest strength. Scientists and engineers across the world, who had spent months dissecting Enigma technology, began implementing upgrades to Earth's defenses. Using alien tech mixed with human ingenuity, they developed advanced weaponry that allowed them to strike with unprecedented precision. Reverse-engineered shield systems protected human forces as they advanced, and modified targeting systems gave them an edge that leveled the battlefield. Enigma soldiers, who had once marched in confidently, now hesitated, uncertain of what awaited them in each engagement. But technology alone didn't account for humanity's success. There was something the Enigma couldn't replicate or counter: the sheer determination of Earth's people. Humanity fought with a purpose the Enigma had never understood. They were defending their homes, their families, their very way of life. This resolve became the fuel behind every strike, every ambush, and every strategic victory. Civilians took up arms, turning homes and towns into fortified strongholds. Entire communities worked together to support resistance fighters, providing shelter, food, and intelligence on enemy movements. For the Enigma, every inch of ground came at an unsustainable cost. As humanity's forces pressed their advantage, the Enigma began to show cracks in their once unshakable facade. Reports from the front lines were grim. Enigma soldiers found themselves overwhelmed not just by Earth's forces but by the relentless spirit of their adversaries. Desperation led to missteps within the Enigma ranks. High-ranking officers, once confident in their empire's unassailable strength, began making rushed, poorly calculated decisions. Their rigid hierarchy, so effective in past conquests, was becoming a liability, as it couldn't adapt to the unpredictable strategies of a determined resistance. Panic spread, and whispers of doubt surfaced within the Empire's ranks. The psychological toll on the Enigma soldiers was profound. They had been raised on tales of the Empire's invincibility, yet here they were, losing ground to a species they had deemed inferior. Morale plummeted, and defections increased. Some Enigma soldiers began to desert, unwilling to continue a fight that seemed destined for failure. The Empire's leadership, however, remained stubborn, refusing to acknowledge that their conquest was slipping from their grasp. But even their orders to hold ground at all costs became hollow in the face of humanity's relentless push. Humanity's tactics evolved as quickly as their technology. They launched strategic offensives, coordinated with a precision that the NIGMA struggled to counter. Strike teams targeted key NIGMA facilities, dismantling supply chains and crippling infrastructure. Command centers, once secure, became targets of surprise raids, where human forces infiltrated, sabotaged, and withdrew before NIGMA reinforcements could respond. The Empire, accustomed to overwhelming power, had no response to these rapid, tactical strikes that seemed to come from nowhere and leave only wreckage behind. Meanwhile, the NIGMA's internal resources were draining. Their supply lines, stretched thin across multiple worlds, were no match for Earth's localized production capabilities. The humans, in their resourcefulness, had learned to repurpose even the wreckage of destroyed NIGMA ships, converting scraps into weapons, armor, and technology that further fueled their counterattacks. The longer the conflict dragged on, the more the NIGMA found themselves outmatched by an enemy they could no longer simply overpower. And with every NIGMA defeat, humanity's reputation grew. Rumors spread across the galaxy of the species that had not only survived an invasion by the NIGMA Empire but had turned the tables. Other oppressed worlds took note, emboldened by Earth's victories. Messages began reaching Earth from sympathetic factions and rebel groups on other planets, offering intelligence and assistance, eager to join forces with this resilient species that had proven the Empire could be defied. In a final act of desperation, the NIGMA leadership ordered one last major offensive, throwing everything they had left into a decisive battle to crush humanity once and for all. They believed that humanity's forces, though strong, were still limited and that their empire, even weakened, could deliver a fatal blow. But humanity had anticipated this move. With their intelligence network and new alliances, Earth's defenders were prepared. In a brilliant display of coordinated strikes and countermeasures, humanity not only withstood the NIGMA's offensive but managed to drive the Empire's forces into a retreat. This defeat was more than a lost battle. It was a turning point that broke the back of the NIGMA Empire. The NIGMA soldiers, exhausted and demoralized, had no will left to fight. Their confidence shattered, their ranks broken, and their empire in disarray, the once mighty NIGMA forces withdrew. Earth had transformed from a seemingly easy conquest into an unconquerable fortress, defended by a species whose resilience and unity had become legend. In the aftermath, the NIGMA Empire was left crippled, their power diminished, their influence fading. The warning had been there all along in their ancient histories, but they had ignored it. Now, they had paid the ultimate price for their arrogance. Humanity, underestimated and defiant, had risen victorious, securing its place as a force to be reckoned with among the stars. The NIGMA Empire was in tatters, its once mighty reputation now just a shadow. The defeat at Earth had rippled across the galaxy, shaking the confidence of an empire that had believed itself untouchable. Their soldiers, once proud and unyielding, returned to NIGMA-controlled worlds with stories of humanity's defiance, recounting how a single planet had stood its ground against the entire force of an interstellar power. These stories spread quickly, and with them grew a new understanding among the oppressed worlds. The NIGMA were not invincible. Back on Earth, the victory did more than just end the invasion. Humanity had been tested to its limits, forced to unite and innovate in ways that would forever alter its future. The shattered remains of NIGMA technology were studied, improved upon, and integrated into Earth's own systems, creating a leap in technological advancement that propelled humanity into the ranks of advanced civilizations. But more significant than the newfound technology was the sense of purpose that now united the people of Earth. They had defended their home not just with weapons, but with a spirit and resolve that had become their ultimate weapon. In the galactic community, this resilience did not go unnoticed. Messages began pouring in from alien species that had once feared the NIGMA, expressing solidarity and respect for humanity's victory. Representatives of other oppressed worlds, inspired by Earth's example, reached out to discuss alliances, trade, and mutual defense pacts. Humanity, once seen as an isolated, primitive species, was now viewed as a powerful ally and a beacon of hope against oppression. Earth became a symbol of resistance, a reminder that no empire, however mighty, could subdue a world united in purpose. The NIGMA Empire, meanwhile, faced an irreversible decline. Their leadership had lost credibility, Their military was weakened, and their territories began to fracture. Civil unrest broke out across their planets as the story of their defeat spread, sparking resistance movements and calls for independence among the Enigma's conquered worlds. The very thing they had feared in humanity, a refusal to be subjugated, had now spread to their own territories. The Empire had become vulnerable, its foundations crumbling under the weight of its failed conquest. Yet the collapse of the Enigma Empire was not merely an end, it was a beginning. As the Empire continued to unravel, Earth and its new allies began to form a coalition, a force dedicated to protecting the freedom of all species and preventing future conquests like the Enigma invasion. Humanity led this coalition, using its newfound influence and alliances to establish peace and security across regions that had once been the Enigma's domain. In this new order, Earth was a leader, but it was not an empire. It was a protector, an advocate for unity and resilience, a stark contrast to the Enigma's iron-fisted rule. The Enigma's legacy was no longer one of fear, it had become a cautionary tale. Across the galaxy, civilizations retold the story of how the Enigma had underestimated a seemingly weak species and paid the ultimate price. Children on distant worlds heard of humanity's strength, and young leaders took inspiration from Earth's unity and courage. In time, the phrase, "Do not underestimate humans," became a warning and a lesson embedded in the histories of countless worlds. For humanity, the victory was more than a moment of triumph, it was a transformation. Earth had been forced to stand alone against a force of unimaginable power, and had emerged not only unbroken but stronger than ever. The threat of invasion had sparked a sense of unity and innovation that reshaped every aspect of human society. Nations that had once competed for power now collaborated on shared advancements, creating a new age of exploration, technology, and diplomacy. Humanity looked to the stars with a newfound confidence, ready to face whatever challenges lay beyond, secure in the knowledge that they had earned their place in the galaxy. The final remnants of the Enigma Empire faded with time, leaving behind only ruins and stories of what once was. But Earth and its allies stood vigilant, remembering the lessons learned from the invasion. They had faced extinction and turned it into an opportunity for unity, progress, and hope. The Enigma's mistake had left humanity stronger than it had ever been, with a legacy that would echo across the stars for generations to come. In the end, the Enigma had not just lost a war, they had unleashed something far more powerful, a united humanity, a force capable of shaping the future of the galaxy. The Empire had ignored the warnings, and they had paid the ultimate price. Humanity had risen from the shadows of their invasion, not just as survivors but as leaders, protectors, and a beacon of defiance that no one would ever dare underestimate again.